I'll never forget the night I saw my stepmother's true face. It was the night that made me run from my home and never look back. It started when my father remarried. My mother had died when I was young, and my father thought it was time to bring someone new into our lives. He married a woman from the next village named Adama. She was beautiful, and she had a way of making everyone like her. Everyone except me. From the beginning, something didn't feel right about her. She was always too nice, too sweet, but only when my father was around. When it was just the two of us, she barely spoke to me. And when she did, it was with a look in her eyes that made me feel small, like I was in her way. One night, I woke up thirsty. It was late and the house was quiet. I got up to get some water, and as I passed by my father's room, I noticed his door was slightly open. I was about to call out to him when I saw something that made my blood run cold. Adoma was sitting at the edge of his bed, her back to me. But it wasn't just that she was there, it was the way she was sitting, so still, like a statue. Then, I saw her hands. They were moving in the air, making shapes, like she was drawing something invisible. She was whispering, but I couldn't make out the words. I stood frozen in the doorway, watching as she leaned closer to my sleeping father. Then, she did something I'll never forget. She placed her hand on his chest, and as soon as she did, his breathing changed. It became shallow, like he was struggling to breathe. I knew I should run, wake someone up, do anything. But I couldn't move. All I could do was watch as my father's face twisted in pain, even though he was still asleep. Suddenly, Adoma turned her head, like she knew I was there. Her eyes met mine, and in that moment, I saw her true face. It wasn't the kind, beautiful woman my father had married. It was something else, something dark and twisted. Her eyes were cold, and her smile was cruel, like she was enjoying the power she had over him. I stumbled back, finally finding the strength to move. I ran to my room, my heart pounding in my chest. I hid under my blanket, shaking, too scared to sleep, too scared to even breathe. The next morning, my father seemed different. He was quiet, weaker. When I tried to tell him what I had seen, he just looked at me like I was speaking another language. Adoma was there, too, watching me with that same cold smile, daring me to say more. I knew I couldn't stay there. I had to leave, but I didn't know how. I was just a boy, and she had all the power. That night, I decided to run. I waited until everyone was asleep, then I slipped out of the house and ran as fast as I could to my uncle's home in the next village. When I arrived, I told my uncle everything. He didn't laugh or tell me it was just a bad dream. Instead, he looked at me with a serious face and said that I did the right thing by leaving. He said there were people in this world who could do terrible things with just a touch, and that Adoma was one of them. I stayed with my uncle after that, never going back to my father's house. My father grew sicker, and eventually, he passed away. I couldn't help but think it was because of her, that she had taken something from him that he couldn't get back. I still have nightmares about that night, about the way she looked at me, about my father's face twisted in pain. Sometimes, I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't seen her that night, if I had just gone back to sleep. But deep down, I know the truth. If I hadn't left, she would have taken me too. But as time passed, I found peace. My uncle became like a brother to me, and he taught me how to be strong, how to protect myself from people like Adam. I grew up learning that there is darkness in the world, but there is also light. I learned to trust my instincts, to listen to the warnings that come from deep inside. Now, I am a man with a family of my own. I share my story not to scare others, but to show that even in the darkest times, there is a way out. I escaped the evil that tried to take my life, and I grew stronger because of it.